Hi guys, this is Dan here at J&D Gardens. If you're a new viewer, welcome. Please support the channel by planting that subscribe button. And if you're already a viewer, welcome back. Well, we got a great video for you today. If you've been wanting to start a compost pile for a while and you don't know where to begin, or you don't have room in your backyard for large compost bins like this, we have a great affordable solution for you. And that's by using an expandable outdoor compost bin. It's a really great system. We're going to show you how to set one up. We're going to show you the benefits of it, and we're going to actually start the pile. So stick around. Welcome back. So as I said in the intro, if you're looking to start a compost bin and you don't have room in your property, a designated spot for large compost bins like this, you need something maybe a little more portable, or something that you can take down and put back up because you only compost certain times of the year, then using some kind of plastic bin system like this might be the way to go. And it's really easy. Let me explain the system a little bit, because there's a bunch of them and they're all very similar. What it is a large plastic sheet or polypropylene, and they can different companies come in different heights. This one is about 34 inches high, can be 34 to 36 inches wide, which would mean that will be the height, and the length of the sheet will depending on how big you go with the bin, which I'll explain in a second. And what it does is it allows you to kind of form a circle and kind of lock it in place to make a large bin like this. Now, if you know about composting, important thing about composting is allowing air and water to get through it. And the beauty part of this system, that it has thousands of little holes that as you put your material in it, it's going to allow the air to penetrate inside so that it breaks down. Now, as I said, there's a couple of companies that make bins like this. Two of the more popular ones, one is called GeoBin, and this one is actually a company called Vivosun. Now, it comes in a couple of different sizes. I believe it comes with a 220 gallon, a 300 gallon, which is what this is, and a 500 gallon, which is really big. Now, it's expandable, so you can kind of change the size, which I'll explain that in a minute, as you put in these locks. And the reason I'm showing you this Vivosun is because it's a plastic sheet, it could actually kind of move around a lot. The cool thing about the Vivosun, it came with these plastic rods that allow you to put them every so often. I think there's about 6 of them, and allows you to set them up, and it'll stop the plastic walls from falling in until you have all your compost in it, which then it'll actually form a perfect circle. So let me show you how we actually start off when you get it in the packaging. So when you get your Vivosun expandable compost bin, you're going to get it in a box like this. Now, it's a large sheet of plastic, like I said, and it's rolled up really tight. We're going to leave a link at the end of the video. You'll get instructions showing you how to set it up, which we're going to show you right now. What's cool about this particular one, it actually comes with a pair of gloves. It comes with these little claws as you're picking up leaves. Pretty cool. So, over there on the side. And let me show you, put that there. And as I showed you, it comes with these plastic rods which help hold it up, which is really important. Now, in order to, as you can see this right here, in order to keep the sheet to lock it off, it comes with these plastic keys. And let me show you, I have a couple extra ones here. These plastic keys that allow you to put it through the large hole and turn it. And that's going to hold it right in place. I got a couple extra. Now, I believe it comes with 10. I actually ordered a couple extra because I usually pack my compost bins really tight. I probably don't need it, but I just got it anyway. And by locking it down like that, it's going to stop anything from breaking apart. And you kind of lock it up in 2 places. Now, like I said, when you get it, it's going to come rolled up. And since it's like it's a heavy, really heavy duty plastic, you're going to want to lay it out for a little bit. So let me show you how I did that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is roll out the sheet on the floor. Here I am leaving it in the sun on the grass so that it warms up, easier to work with, kind of softens it up. Then you're going to want to space out the support rods. Now here I did it every 5th one, so it worked out pretty well. Then you want to take the rods, and as you can see, you have these oval slots going all the way to the top. You're just going to want to weave them in and out. So you start with the bottom one and then go towards the back, towards the front, towards the back, towards the front. And really not too difficult to do. It just it's fighting me here a little bit, but that's okay. It's laying it out on the floor, and once it's stretched out, it's going to be so much easier to do. And that's really what's going to help support the wall so everything doesn't cave in on you. See, once you have it all straightened out like that, and it's not curling up, it's going to be a lot easier to bring it together and lock these keys in place. Now, there's a couple of ways you can set this up. You can put it directly on the ground the way we're going to do, or you can put it up on some kind of pallet or skid. And that's to allow for aeration, a little more aeration. And let me kind of show you. Let me move this to the side. I happen to have a plastic skid right here. Now, obviously, if you have plastic, it'd be great because it's not going to deteriorate as much. But if you have wood, that's fine too. Now, you can see this one's already set up. It almost looks like inside of a compost bin. It's going to allow for a lot of air to go through. Now, depending on the size of the skid and depending on the size of bin that you have, you kind of want to make it to the size that you're going to do. So this one, I'm going to make mine rather large, but if I wanted to try to fit on the skid, I would just make it a little tighter and close it in a little more so it'll fit perfectly. And this is going to allow for air to come in from the sides, from the top, and from the bottom, which is kind of cool. But for us, it doesn't matter because I'm actually I'm going to be turning my compost pile a lot, so I don't need this much of aeration for my bin. So I think this would be more of a nightmare for me anyway, but let me just put this over here. Now, the real cool thing that made me think about this system is, if you've seen my videos on composting, these compost bins work great and they really hold in everything tight, allow for a lot of air to go through. But if you see me kind of digging everything out, it is a little tough to get in there. I'm with the shovel and with the hoe, pulling everything out and then kind of turning it and putting it back in. Real cool thing about a bin like this is, and you're going to need some space for this when you're doing this. Once I have the bin set up as high as I want, it's going to be easier to come in here and turn the pile a couple of ways. And I'm going to show you different ways of doing it using augers and other kind of tools to help turn it while it's in here. But when I turn a compost pile like this, I'm pulling everything out and I'm using my tiller to kind of mix it all in. That allows me to get it quicker. What I can do with this one is that I can just take out the keys, open it up. It'll all be a big pile here. I can shovel it around, and what I'll do is, and bring my tiller, is I'll set this up right next to it. If I can hold it in place, set up right next to it. After I've turned it, then all I have to do is put it right back into here. I think it's a lot easier than pulling it from inside the bin like this. So I'm really kind of excited about using a system like this. I think it's gonna really save me a lot of work. As we go on and I make the pile, I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. Now, probably the big question on your mind is, look at this, the way it's set up. It seems very flimsy. And imagine if it didn't have these rods to kind of hold it in place. And that was a concern when I was going to use a system like this. And I said, how am I going to fix that? Now, if I'm building a pile and I have a ton of material at once I put it in, it'll just start it'll turn into a perfect circle, because all the weight is just natural form. It's going to turn into a circle. All the weight of all the material is going to be setting up. But in between that, it's just going to drive me crazy. So I have come up with something that I'm going to do. Is I'm going to actually use rebar. And this is extra, you don't have to do this. I'm gonna use a rebar to kind of set it up in place. I'm gonna set certain ones up and try to get a circle as best as I can. That's gonna hold it up straight. I'm gonna use these rebar, I'm gonna pound it into the ground. Now, again, about getting it to be a circle as opposed to some amorphous shape like this. So, and if you're as anal as I am, it's really gonna bother you. So I have a little guide to help you. Let me just kind of put this to the side here to kind of show you. Big old mess here. Okay, so this bin that I'm gonna be making is gonna be about 42 inches wide. So in order so that I can kind of get a perfect circle, and I hope you can make that out, what I do is I get a piece of rope with 2 garden stakes or pieces of metal or wood, whatever you have, that I can make a best of a circle as I can in the ground. So I figure how I want it. This is gonna be the center of my compost bin. So what I'm gonna do is put that into the ground, and I'm just gonna use this as a guide to make a large 42-inch circle. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's gonna be a guide. Of course, my area is very shaly, as I've said in other videos. But there, that's about as perfect of a circle as I'm gonna get. So now, I'm gonna put the bin as best as I can there. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna wanna unlock it in the future. So, okay, let me get the hammer. So, I'm gonna get one of my rebar, some old rebar that I have. Hopefully I'm not hitting too much shale here. That was easy. Okay, now I'm following the circle on the ground. So I'm gonna come across here in the front. And I think I have like 4 or 5 of them. There. This is extra. You don't have to do that. If you have enough material, like I said, it'll kind of form. This is just my meticulous nature. So, okay. See, it's forming a little better here. Okay, because as I'm putting material in, this would absolutely drive me crazy. Okay, so these rebar are only temporary, as I said. Once we fill in the pile, when it's maybe about halfway full and it's forming the circle, I'm gonna pull them out. Because I won't need them, and I don't want them to get any more rusty than they already are. But it's really going to help me so it doesn't drive me crazy falling over as I'm shoveling things inside of it. So now let's start our pile. So I want to start off by actually showing you the kind of materials to use in a compost pile. All right, an important thing of getting a good compost pile is having enough carbons and nitrogens in it. Now, this is going to be a little bit of an overview. We have some great videos that we're going to link at the end of this one, explaining what carbons and nitrogens are, and also processing them so that they break up inside your compost bin faster. But things are nitrogen are fresh green, like cuttings from your plants, like we have all our canna lily leaves here, or things like coffee, a great form of nitrogen. Or even things like grass cuttings, anything kind of green, just filled with nitrogen and incredible. We just actually cut our lawn for today, so that's fresh greens that we're going to be using. Now, carbons are more dried things like wood chips or like leaves and they help kind of heat up the pile, which we'll talk about more in the future. And then things like more nitrogens are things like have a whole wheelbarrow full of plants, potted plants. Now there's a lot of soil in here. You can kind of separate it if you want to, but I kind of throw it all into the pile. The key is breaking it down. And this is what I was talking about, processing. Now processing, and like I said, we have a video linked at the end of this one to explain that a little bit. If you were to throw leaves like this, which are still green, inside your compost bin, it's going to take forever to break down, because what this does, there's just so much, it'll just get matted down. There's no room for air or water to get in there, and it's just going to take forever. So if you see this pile here, this has some greens and some browns, but this is all these kind of leaves just that I ran over with my lawnmower. And by breaking it down like this, I mean, it already almost looks like compost. It's a one extra step that allows you to break down your pile quicker. Water and air are going to get through smaller pieces than they are going to get through bigger pieces. And so it's really important that you do that. You're going to see incredible results with by processing them a little bit. So what we're going to do, now when you make a pile, you'll want to layer them. By layering is, you're going to want to do some carbons and some nitrogens, and then mix them up in between, and with the real key ingredient, which is water. So make sure that you have a water source near your compost bin, or maybe get a big drum to collect rainwater. That's really important. That's actually what we did over in this area. So when I talk about layering, I'm going to start off with a base of like carbons, and then I'm going to put some nitrogens, different kinds of nitrogens, and then some carbons again, and then some water, and we're going to keep doing it until we kind of use everything up. And we're going to let that sit. And what that's going to do is break down over time, and it's going to create the compost. So let's head back over to the compost bin, and we'll get started. All right, so we're here inside the bin. You can see kind of looks more like a square than a circle, but that's okay, because like I said, once it starts filling up, it'll form the circle, and I'll pull the rebar off. So the first thing we'll want to start off is with a good base of carbons. And by carbons, we're going to use dried up leaves and mulched up leaves. So you can see, I'll spread it out. Kind of mix some grass up there, but that's okay. Whoop. Problem with that. Okay, so a little bit more. All right, so I got my base. Now I'm going to do some carbons. I did some carbons. Now I'm going to do some nitrogen, which is some leaves, some greens. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some water. Now, if it's by the house, you have your water hole, that's great, but we don't have water hole, so we have a drum here that we've been collecting rainwater in. Have a bucket, and just going to pour it in there. Just want to spread it around a little bit at a time. Now, add some more carbon. Okay. Now, another good form of nitrogen that you can use are food scraps. Now, I generally don't put too many food scraps in my compost bins. I use them actually in my worm bin, because the worms kind of like the organic food a little bit more. A big thing, if you want to use food scraps, that's fine, absolutely. What you don't want to use, or I wouldn't recommend, is any kind of meats or dairies. And the reason why is because meats and dairies kind of attract a lot of animals. Anything sugary or sweet, anything like that. I have a lot of groundhogs and a lot of raccoons in my area. And this is not a closed-in bin. So if if I had like food scraps in there, they're gonna smell it. They're gonna come in here and they're gonna start tearing this apart. And worse, you don't want to get any kind of rodents like rats or field mice, especially if it's close to your house, and they will come to the area because they're attracted to any kind of food. So I wouldn't recommend that. If you're going to do that, do a closed system. This is an open system, so definitely don't do, I wouldn't recommend using any table scraps in here. But let me continue on. Now, another great form of nitrogen is coffee, believe it or not. And coffee, you can actually get, if you drink a lot of coffee, you'll have your coffee grounds, which is great. But you can also get them from Starbucks. Starbucks actually has a program, and I'll do a video of that in the future, on using coffee. Using coffee from Starbucks. And it's pretty cool because you get it for free. Just go at the end of the night and get it. And coffee is just an incredible. And don't worry about the filter bags. The filter, they're fine. They're made of paper. They'll break down too. But like I said, really good form, and the price is right. So let me just kind of put that aside. Let me add some more carbons. I gotta watch this one rebar. And I'm gonna start mixing in. And the coffee smell is actually really good. If you like Starbucks coffee, I can smell it now. It's pretty good. So let me continue on. You can kind of start mixing in the nitrogen and the carbon together. I've had some piles, and I'll show you some of those in the future, that get so hot. Because ideally you'd like this pile to get to about 160 degrees if you can get it that way. Kind of might be hard with an open one like this, but at 160 degrees it'll kill any weed seeds or grass seeds or anything, so the soil that you get is nice and clean and nothing will start growing in it. And it's pretty wild, and like I said, we'll do some videos if it happens. If we get it up to that temperature, when I take it apart, you'll see this thing smoking, because the leaves will actually start burning. Now, it's not going to cause a fire or anything like that, but it actually, smoke comes out. I have some really awesome videos that I've done in the past of smoke coming on. It seems like I'm using some kind of pyrotechnics, but it's not. It's pretty wild. Hopefully we can get this pile up. I know I can those bins. Let's see if we can get these piles up to about 160. But let's see, let's continue filling. Okay. Some more carbons. Now I'm going to use some of the leaves that I shredded up, some of the plant that I've shredded up. All good stuff for the compost bin. Now, the good thing about the leaves this time of year, as they're dying out, you have carbons and nitrogens, because some of it has died off, so it's gone brown, but still a lot of green, which is great nitrogen. Let's add a little more water, huh? Important thing is to keep this wet. You don't want to dry it out, or just it won't break down. Now, if you have it too wet, then it is just going to start stinking up, and it won't break down as quick either. The key is finding the right mixture. So the good thing about composting is that you really can't mess up. Eventually, the only thing you can mess up is the speed in which it's going to break down. Eventually, everything is going to break down. I don't care how wet it is, how dry it is. Eventually, it'll break down. It's a matter of how quick you want it. And we want it quick, obviously, because we want this soil as soon as we can, the compost. Well, let me keep filling this up. Okay, so as you can see, I'm about not even halfway done, and I put a lot in here. Now I still have a ton of material I still have to process. Now one thing, another thing about composting, what makes composting work is mass. So the bigger your pile, the quicker it's going to break down, because all that mass is going to help heat it up quicker. This pile is going to take forever to, not forever, but it'll take longer to break down because it's going to take longer to heat. So when you're deciding what kind of one of these bins that you're going to use, the good thing that I said, it's adjustable. All these slots, you can make it smaller and smaller. So if you know you don't have that much material to put in there, then maybe you want to make it smaller, because the bigger you make it, the lower it's going to be. It's not going to have that mass that I said in order to heat up. And the big problem that people tell me, they just can't get their pile to heat up, and that has a lot to do with not the right mixture of nitrogens and carbons, plus the keeping it wet, but also it's the size. So really important when you're considering making the pile, think about how much you have. That's going to determine how big you want to make your bin. So let me I'm going to wind up chopping some more stuff up and putting in here, but for now let's end the video. Okay, so I got about half now. I still have a ton of material, like I said, but it's going really well, and the water is kind of pushing everything down. There's actually a lot of material in here because as I talked about, I processed it, made it smaller so that it could break down quicker, and it's doing pretty well. But normally I would leave these in because I don't want them flopping down. Leave the rebar in. I don't want it flopping down as I'm putting it in, putting more material, but I just wanted to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to pull these out, and if I need to, perfect. If I need to, I will put them back in. If I find it flapping, don't dig it too hard. Wow. It's like pulling Excalibur out of the ground. All right, there we go. All right. There we go. All right, so you see, it's keeping its form, and it's only going to get better as it goes, because this is a 42-inch wide, so it's really a big circle, but it's doing pretty well. When I was putting everything in, it would be dipping down like that, and I would find that to be a big problem. So now, even though it's half full, it's still keeping its form. And as I put more, it's going to be like a perfect circle, probably, because all the weight, the denseness of the pile is just going to be pushing out on it. So it's going to work out great. I probably put too much water. A lot of water is leaking over this way, but that's okay. It's going to break down really well. One cool thing about this system is that, and if you have the room for it, that you can get around from it from all sides, that when it's time to turn the pile, you know, you can either, you're going to come in here, kind of turn it with your shovel, or there's some other techniques that I'm going to show you as I go along, but whatever it is, you can work on it this way, right from the top, really, really easy. And again, what I think is going to be the game changer, at least for me, is when this pile is done and I've turned it, I mean, it's built up enough, and maybe a week or two when I want to turn it, all I have to do is pull out these keys, pull out these keys, unwrap it, and it's going to be a perfectly formed compost bin. And then I'm going to build it over right here, run over it with my tiller, or just turn it a good turn, and it's going to be so much easier to shovel in. I think that's a real win-win, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to turn out. Doesn't have a top, so I'm going to think about that, about what to do to help it collect the heat a little bit more. But you know, we'll see how this goes, and I think it's going to work out really well for us. And if it works out that well for us and that much easier, I'm probably going to get another one. And then eventually, when these deteriorate, because I just finished building new ones, we're going to just not use the wood ones anymore. So anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. If you want to get into composting, you really ought to, because it's a great way to to get rid of organic material other than just ending up in a landfill. Look into different forms, the different kind of compost bins, but you want something simple, easy, cheap, and I'm pretty sure effective. Look into some kind of polypropylene expandable outdoor compost bin from either Vivosun or GeoBin or a bunch of other ones. So if you have any questions on all things composting, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd absolutely love to hear from you, and be sure to hit like and subscribe and ring that bell. So from all of us here at J&D Gardens, till next time, remember, yes we can.